Click below to subscribe to the Mel Bolton Associates newsletter. Get all our bonus content, including the full interview with Dr. Whitney Goodwin. Welcome to Mel Bolton Associates How to Make a Great Product podcast. This is where we explore best practices for taking great ideas from napkin sketches to mass production. In today's podcast, we will be discussing the research phase of product development for the radiation-free Bluetooth headset we are developing. I'm Stacy Alatsis, Vice President of Public Relations for Mel Bolton Associates. I'm joined today by Mel Bolton Associates President Jay Tynan and Rob Flex. Rob brought us his idea to develop a set of headphones that include a shield to protect the brain from radiation. Rob, can you tell us a little bit about your inspiration for that?
Sure. Well, I'm usually nervous about things that might cause cancer, and I think we all know that forms of radiation cause cancer. I myself had cancer twice, and that had nothing to do with radiation, but because of that, I'm maybe a little more in tune than others. And over the years, I've met 4 people who had brain tumors and were heavy cell phone users. 2 were older men who used their cell phone a lot for business, and then 2 were young people in their 30s who got a tumor from using their cell phone all the time. One slept with their cell phone under the pillow. So this got me thinking, and I had seen other products that shield your cell phone when you put it down next to you on the bed and things like that. But then it occurred to me that as wireless headphones came out, that there was, you were taking a 2.4 gig transmitter and putting it right next to your skull. And that just didn't seem to pass the sniff test for me. I know that it's Bluetooth, so it's lower amplitude than Wi-Fi or your phone, but still, I felt that I'm not going to buy one until there's a little more protection. So I started looking into that, and that's what brought me to y'all.
Okay, and we now at this point, Jay has created a rendering of what this headset might look like and where the shielding would go. So Jay, could you talk a little bit about how you came up with that design?
Sure, if we can have the drawing up, so it'll help illustrate. Okay, well, basically, what I'm showing here is all the main parts of a wireless headset, and on the left side, I exploded all the main parts to show how the actual radiation filter, which is orange in this drawing, would be. It's just a basic idea. We have more research to do, but you'll have the components and then the main part, and then of course the radiation filter, and then the earphone part. So it's a simple drawing just showing the main parts just to help convey what we're thinking. And it was partially also what we did to help illustrate what we were thinking before Stacy had a chance to interview the expert on radiation.
Jay, I want to talk about how important that drawing is, because we talked about this a lot, and at some point, and I can't remember the exact conversation, but at some point it occurred to us that not all of us are picturing the exact same thing. And this is something I have learned. Mm-hmm. I know that the point of this podcast is, best practices in making a better product, right? So this is one of those best practices. Even though I may think that this is a simple concept, right? Until there's a concept image created, we're not on the same page, right? And so once we got that up, immediately the conversation was able to go forward. There were fewer questions. We were able to show it to, or Stacy was able to show it to Dr. Goodwin and say, this is what we're thinking. Can you tell us how, this would work or not work? So when it comes to best practices, getting those concept images early in the design is extremely important.
It helps refine and focus the information.
Yeah, for sure.
To the more accurate data.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was able to take that rendering and share it with Dr. Whitney J. Goodwin, who is a renowned invasive radiologist and uses radiation on a daily basis to guide surgeries and also take, regular just x-rays. but uses it every day, and it is always front of mind. What can he do to reduce radiation exposure for his patients and also for himself and the other people that he works with? And he says they always operate by the principle.
So there's a kind of a standard principle that we use called, it's ALARA, ALARA, and that stands for as low as reasonably achievable. So the ALARA principle basically states don't use radiation unless you really need it, and the benefits to the patient are going to outweigh the risks of the radiation. And the three main principles of ALARA are time, distance, and shielding. So what that means is, you know, you don't just want to step on the X-ray pedal and just beam somebody with X-rays for hours and hours on end, you know. So you want to limit the time. You press the X-ray pedal when you need to, and that's decreasing the time is going to decrease the dose that the patient receives. And then distance is another thing that we use. So like if you're a radiology tech or a nurse in the room during the procedure, you know, it's best if you stand away from where the X-rays are coming from. There's no reason to stand right on top of the X-rays, and that will also mitigate your dose.
The idea there is that you want to put between the patient and the radiation, or, you know, the doctor as well, time, distance, and shielding. Those are the three things that will lower the amount of radiation. So you're only using the amount you absolutely positively need. And when he saw the hearing we had, he said, yes, absolutely. Putting a shield in a headset is going to reduce the amount of radiation and provide some protection from the various, you know, ailments you could get for having too much radiation. Cancer, tumors being one of them. He even said in the ears, there's a lot of veins real close to the surface, and so you could get blood cancers and that kind of thing from having earphones so close to your ear. So any kind of shielding is great. And in this case, time, if you're only wearing the earphones for a very short amount of time, that's probably not much of an issue. But we're talking about this product for people who wear them long term. Like they wear them all day at work, they wear them all day while they're playing a game, they wear them for long hours, being as a gamer for many years, that kind of thing. And so then time is not on their side. And then the other principle, distance, it's right up against their skin. It's sitting right next to their face. So distance is not on their side. He even said wearing a headphone outside, like our drawing shows, is better than one that's inside the ear, because even that couple of centimeters is going to provide you with more protection. So that leaves you with, if you don't have the time on your side or the distance on your side, he said that shielding is then what you're left with, is putting some kind of a shield between the device and your body, and that's going to help remove some of the threat of radiation. So he thought this product was definitely, you know, a good idea. That would go
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah. So I watched that interview, so I have some knowledge of it, and we can put up some of the clips as we go, as to tell the story better than I can. But from what you just described and what I saw in that video, I think the type of consumer that would benefit from this the most would be gamers, because they game every day, if not every day, multiple times a week for, you know, hours on end. And maybe even more so than that, people who wear their headsets at work, because they're wearing their headsets for 8 hours, right? 5 days a week. And then a third class would be people who wear headsets while they work out. If they're working out, you know, 3-4 times a week, it's a lot less than gaming. It's a lot less than wearing it, you know, all day at work. But, you know, you're getting, you know, maybe 4, 5, 6 hours a week of, you know, of radiation there up against your head. So I think those are our target consumers, and that may be what we want to validate there.
Yeah, he said he says like the neck area has a lot of important structures, brain, cranial nerves, vessels, lymphatic tissues. And so you're going to hit a lot of those things with radiation when you have it that close to your head.
Right. And I pulled something out of that. You know, we looked at some alternatives, and I don't think we talked about them on the show yet. So maybe we can pull it up and put it on. But there are headsets that are advertised as low radiation, and it's a collar that goes around your neck and then has a speaker. So, okay, you've moved it from your ears, but now you've put it up against your lymph nodes, right? So I think that's not really doing yourself any favors. It may be increasing your risk.
Mhm.
There is no finite data on this. Seems like it's hard to collect right now, but we know it's a problem.
Well,
Well,
he
that's-
said, yeah, all the data is extrapolated, like from the Hiroshima bombing, so that's the kind of data. They don't make somebody wear a headphone. Nobody's going to tell someone to wear a headphone every day for 20 years and see if they get cancer or something like that.
Mhm.
But they know that the closer you are to, to like the atomic bomb blast, the more severe your illness is going to be. And so they use those studies to kind of see, to make a judgment about how dangerous, the radiation might be. Now, he said that, the radio waves we're talking about are very, very small. The idea, but the point is, if you are a high user, if you are a long-term user, that adds up. And that's something, certainly shielding is going to provide you with protection if you're going to be wearing something for a long time.
Mhm.
Or if you are a child. He said, now that's also, children's cells are still developing. DNA is still dividing very quickly, rapidly when you're young. And that's going to increase the danger of perhaps the radiation causing a problem. More so than when you're older and your cells are done dividing and you're done growing. So children who are wearing these headsets and playing games for long periods of time would definitely benefit from having some kind of shielding in that headset to provide them some protection.
Yeah. So I bring that back to those three types of consumers, exercise, gaming, and work. The children aren't at work, hopefully, very often, right? I think that's illegal, but and they don't work out very often, but they do game. So I think the most important, like the premier, where we want to put most of our effort would be into making a great gaming headset for people under 25 whose brains are still developing and cells are still, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. I like what Dr. Goodwin said. He said, yeah, you're not going to be able to find a study saying that it's dangerous, but likewise, you also can't find a study saying that it's safe.
Well, I think it's pretty well known. I mean, how many people do you see now with their cell phones? They're talking to the person on the other side, other end of the phone, like this, away from their face.
Yeah,
It's not an unknown thing.
right.
People know.
There's consumer concern about it, right?
Yeah.
So you can't prove it's safe. You can't prove it's dangerous because like he said, you're not going to do a 20-year study on this. So in the absence of that, and he also said, I remember he said, you can't. Everything we're saying that it's safe was done on a different type of use case, right? So it was, hey, if you're using your cell phone or you're using a Bluetooth headset to make a call, that was an assumption that you don't get too many calls a day. You have it in your ear, you make a call, you take it out. So low radiation, and life has changed. Now we have headsets that people wear in these three use cases for long periods of time. And any assumption made in the past that might have said, oh, don't worry about it, is no longer valid. And so you have to go back to that Alara. We can't reduce the time in these three use cases. We can't increase the distance with the headset use case.
I
The
just
only
wonder,
thing we can do-
I'd probably be hard to do, but I wonder if the incidences of brain cancer have increased since the use of cell phones has increased so much. I wonder if there's any data like that. Or
I'm
gaming,
is I'm sure there is, because I had read some studies on that, but I don't think that they're not gold standard tests, right? Because you don't have I guess you do have groups before, right? But it's more it's called a retrospective study rather than a control group study. So I think they exist. I saw one out of Israel for sure.
He also said, we've been talking about the impact on the design and the weight of the product, but he said that because these energies are so low, that a very thin layer of metal is really all that we would need to attenuate all the radiation, he said.
especially if it's aluminum, like we mentioned.
So we wouldn't need to be concerned about making it too heavy or uncomfortable, because we could just put something very thin
Mhm.
and achieve the same results.
And then I imagine even thin aluminum adds a little bit of weight, right? But if Jay, this is right in your wheelhouse. Wouldn't there be things we could do to the cushioning on top of the head to, distribute that tiny bit of weight so these things still feel really weightless? These headphones, because most headphones today feel pretty light because they don't want to weigh your head down. But we could do some things there in the design, the industrial design. Yeah.
Yeah, through material use. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Excellent.
And you can always hollow things out, structurally, there are all sorts of things you can try.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Excellent.
Yeah, he said, the risk is small, but not zero. And he said, doing this is just a simple, easy, cheap way to mitigate your risk. And
yeah. No, I fully agree. I fully agree. Like, Jay was talking, right, about people having their cell phone conversations on speakerphone away from their face. You can't make that risk zero, but it's a lot better than having it up to your ear, And I remember when cell phones first came out, no one would do that, right? But now people,
right up against the head.
yeah, everyone put it against their head. But now I think people are starting to figure out or become more concerned, and they just they move it away.
well, and the microphones have become so much more sensitive. They pick up stuff from a distance.
Yeah. The next step is let's validate our thoughts, the story that we're going to tell with a consumer group. We can do a small focus group or do some a larger group using a survey format, and I'll put both of those together, and then we'll go over the survey format first, and then we'll see what we're going to do, survey, or do we need to supply any pictures or whatever, and we'll put together our next step for research. And
yeah, and you put together the correct set of questions that you believe would give us the right results, and maybe a few images. Me, I like drawings. So just to help put a perspective on what we're really talking about, because the one thing I've learned about focus group studies is you never know what they're really seeing.
Right.
You want to help them as much as possible visually.
Right. And there's some good tools like SurveyMonkey that lets you put in images and then ask them, and you can even point to things you like on the image with SurveyMonkey. We've used that in lots of ways.
That's great. So for next time, we will be talking about our consumer research. And then we will explore where we go from there. Okay. Well,
Okay.
Rob and Jay, thanks for joining us today. And until next time, this is How to Make a Great Product Podcast.